Today is Tuesday, July 8th, 2025. At this time, we'll have a moment of silent prayer. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good evening. It's great to see a good-sized crowd here tonight. We always like when we have a lot of residents come out, so thank you for joining us tonight. And for some of you, I was thinking I couldn't wait to get inside. It's so hot outside, and thankful for the air condition this time of year for sure. So I just wanted to bring up a couple of things. First, as you all may have heard through the news or through our social media posts, but we have the Virginia Task Force team, our Swiftwater Rescue team from the Bristol, Virginia Fire Department has been deployed to Texas to help with the flooding disaster that happened there. So if you all will please keep them in your thoughts and prayers while they're there, that would be great. And I'll turn it over to see if there are any other comments from the council, and then I have one more.
I do have one comment or suggestion. So several days ago, and before that, maybe 3 weeks ago, at least I and I believe Vice Mayor Holmes have been contacted by folks who have had issues with downed power lines throughout the city, whether it be a power line that's laying completely on the ground or a power line that's just hanging very low. So, I did some very unscientific research, and I asked a whole bunch of other people, and it turns out that is a systemic issue that a lot of people have, whether it's, a BVU line, point, CenturyLink, whatever, old power lines that are no longer maintained. So what I would like to suggest, and I figure this is as good a place as any, and ask that maybe the city manager consider, I would like to see an ordinance that requires the owner of a power pole to maintain a certain height for their power lines. And that would be, my suggestion would be that ordinance would be putting the requirement on the owner of the power pole to monitor and police those lines even if they're not theirs. So that would be something I think that I would like to see, and hopefully it would go a long way toward helping residents who seem to have a lot of problems with lines down in their yard.
I'll talk to the city attorney and see.
He's an all right guy. See what he says.
Give me some time to research that, and
Yeah.
I'll get you an answer.
Probably needs to include more than just power lines because, like he was saying, cable lines, phone lines, other things that may not carry active power.
Right.
Yeah. Any of those black lines hanging off of a big pole.
I want to take a second and just echo the mayor's comments. I want to say thank you to Virginia Task Force 4 for being deployed, for being willing to serve. They've served our region incredibly well over the years. There's been, through Helene, through the winter storms earlier this year, they've done fantastic work across the region. The governor has called them up to go to Texas. They left yesterday, got there today. I think they're going to spend about 2 weeks there, possibly more. So it's going to be hard work. They're going to work very hard, long hours, but it's also going to be very draining work, very difficult. The further you get away from the event, the harder it is to process some of that. So they're going to go through quite a bit there. So just keep them in your thoughts and prayers, and especially when they come home. If you know them, be there for them, support them. And then also I want to thank Delegate O'Quinn. Earlier today we had a presentation at the fire department where he commended our fire department for their work, the Swiftwater Rescue Team for their work in the winter storms. Had a House of Delegates commendation for that. So that is big. Richmond recognized the work that our guys put in, and just want to thank him for his tireless efforts for our city.
All right, thank you for those comments. And I'll just add, I know we've had quite a few people here tonight, and quite a few are signed up for comments, and we appreciate your comments. If there's anyone who has not signed up and would like to make a public comment tonight, Please make sure that you fill out the form and pass it up to Megan, that's right up here, our clerk, and she'll get it up to us. I know there's been a couple of recent incidences that people have wanted to make comment and didn't realize they needed to sign up, so I just wanted to share that. With no further comments, I'll turn it over to the city manager for comments.
Yes, council and members of the public. I do want to make one comment tonight, and unfortunately David McGee is not here to cover this, but Appalachia Electric Power, they donated $50,000 today to our Swiftwater Rescue Team for us to purchase new Swiftwater rescue boats. And even though Appalachian Power does not serve the city of Bristol, our rescue teams, they serve all of Southwest Virginia, which is all of Appalachian Power's district. And our Swiftwater Rescue Team, they applied for a grant, and Appalachia Electric Power recognized the services they provide for our entire region and thought that it was worthy of a $50,000 grant for them to buy new Swiftwater boats. So we really appreciate Appalachia Power being a team player and a community player for the people of Bristol and for the surrounding community. So thanks to Appalachia Power for all they have done.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. We attended a little ceremony today down at the fire department with our fire chief and a lot of our firemen. And as the vice mayor said, Delegate O'Quinn and a lot of our city staff. And it was really a great opportunity, and I appreciate Appalachian Electric Power. $50,000 goes a long way, and we certainly appreciate it, and I know our fire department does as well. So thank you again to them. All right, moving into our agenda, looking for adoption of agenda.
I move for the adoption of the agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes.
Holmes,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Pollard,
Yes.
Nave.
Yes. Okay, moving into the regular agenda, item number 1, presentation from the Solid Waste Director. Laura Socia is here, if you would like to come forward.
Sure. Yeah, Laura can come on up. Council, you know, over my 8 years of being here, one of the things that I've noticed, and I probably should have noticed it before now, but we do have a lot of issues with picking up bulk waste in a timely manner. And really that's hurt us more over the past couple of 3 years than it has previously. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we no longer have our own landfill. We're having to take bulk waste down to the landfill in Blumpville and come back, and there's only so much that our vehicles can carry at one time. So Laura and Tamara and I, we were brainstorming one day on, you know, how can we help resolve this problem. And, you know, I thought maybe it's best, instead of our truck driving 213 miles every week across every road, looking at every residence to see if we need to pick up a bulk waste at every location, that we do a, I'll call it a trial run initially, and hopefully it works out, but a run where our citizens call us for a specific address for specific items to be picked up. And Laura is here to talk about that and how we're going to roll that out over the next couple of months.
All right, thank you.
Correct. So, and I'll put an emphasis on, we prefer that they click before they call, because we only really have one person dedicated right now to receiving calls. But we have done a lot of work, a lot of interaction in between the different available groups within the city to be able to come up with a good program, and learning too from some lessons across the state line. We've done a lot of talking to Tennessee to understand how their rollout of their bulk system worked and where there might have been some pinch points. So just go through a very brief slide here. We are still in development of this program. So any questions you may have, I may not be able to answer all of them. All right. But to what Randy said, yes, we have had a lot of difficulty in picking up bulk trash, grass, and bulk items throughout the city. And with those delays, that causes a lot of consternation. Folks can get upset because they're paying a steep amount here for the trash pickup. So we want to make that feel like a very value-added service that the city provides. So with this program, it's almost, you can consider it customized, where you can click onto our website. We're moving it towards where it'll be basically one-stop shopping for all things as far as garbage-related items. throughout the city. And they will be able to list the items that they have, that they've placed out at the curb, and we will be able to designate where those routes will take place by using our in-house GIS system. So it'll be quicker, it'll be more cost-effective. Our routes will be determined either based off of time or mileage. We'll be able to flip that based on this trial run that we're doing here, okay? So that's just a basic introduction to the program. So for our communications plan, we felt that it was important to have this so that the public is fully notified prior to actually rolling this out. So we've already gotten our slogan and our logo put together. We're developing a web page right now that we're working through and working the kinks out on. We will have a press release that will go out to get the news out there. So hopefully our local radio and our TV stations will pick that up. We're also going to utilize our social media to be able to get the word out there for those who utilize social media. And for those that don't, I do understand that this is an elderly population within Bristol. Not everyone utilizes their cell phone the way, let's say, someone in their 20s, 30s, 40s might. So we wanted to make sure that there were other avenues. So we'll be placing stickers on everyone's can, and we are also going to have door hangers. So we will go up to every residence within the city that receives trash service, and they will have this two-sided door hanger for them to be able to use and get that information. So here's our slogan: click or call, we'll haul. Very simple. It's, for the most part, custom pickup. Our goal is to have all of the items that we receive picked up within a 7-day time period, and that is something that we have struggled with in the past. Okay. It's a little small, and I apologize for that, but this is a brief look at what our website is going to be. It'll say what is it that we pick up. There are a lot of items that we don't, and so we want folks to recognize that. And we also put a message on the bottom there that says why we're changing. This is not to cause havoc with folks or to cause any more pain points. We want this to be a very easy, simple, efficient way for us to manage these wastes that are generated throughout the city. And I'm clicking the button and it's not working.
There we go.
Okay, thank you. All right, so here's the sticker, a little close up. There's also the QR code for those that are comfortable in using it. They can scan that. It'll directly take them to the online form where they'll be able to enter in their information. And all of that goes into our GIS system, and that will allow us to create those efficient routes. And again, we're anticipating, we want our start date to be September 1. We're hoping to have a soft rollout, maybe a week or two before that. Just to see how things go. But I feel really good about this program because we've had so much input from not only the lady that takes the calls, but also the foreman, the drivers, GIS and IT to understand how we can make this be a really great program for the city and the citizens. Okay. And here's a little picture of our door hanger, the front and back. And put on there, piles and items should be 2 feet apart. We do have some struggles sometimes where people put everything in one lump pile, and we can't dispose of it that way. And what questions do you have?
All right. Well, thank you very much. First, I just want to thank you and your team for working to put this together. I think it's been much needed, and we certainly appreciate it. I know one of the calls I get often is my brush or my trash has been sitting out here for a week, and we want to know when it's going to be picked up. I think this will answer the questions that a lot of our residents have on when it will be picked up. And I think this is a great program you have put together. So first, thank you for that.
Thank you.
I just wonder, so once someone calls or clicks, how long can they expect before they get their trash picked up or their brush picked up?
Right. Our goal is 7 days, and we will have a ticker down at the bottom in the event that we have something like Helene, where we will let folks know that, look, because of this natural disaster that we've had, we may be behind, but our regular schedule for us is, our goal is to have 7 days to have those items picked up.
Wonderful, and I think that's reasonable. I know there's certain times of year, it seems like, maybe this time of year, and especially in the fall, when the leaves are coming down and people are picking those up, when we get a lot of calls. And so I think this is going to be very cost-effective on the city, because typically we have trucks running down many roads that they probably don't pick up anything or don't have anything to pick up. So I think this will cut a lot of that out of the way and save also on employee time and just gas in our trucks and things like that. I will ask, is there a site, or on the site, does it list, are there things we do not pick up?
Yes, and that will be clearly delineated on that.
Okay.
We had a lot of discussion on that, how to make it easy on the eyes for folks to understand what they can and cannot do, because we're going to need that help.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you. I look forward to helping you promote this and get the word out about it, and I'll open the floor for any other questions or comments.
Okay. I just want to say thank you for your work on this and your work on everything right now. You're doing a lot for us. Thank you for that. This sounds like a great solution to some of the issues we've been facing, as the mayor stated. I do want to say personally, the sticker on the trash can, I think that's huge. During, I think, 2020, we had stickers on the trash can for the schedule of the year, and that was a huge help. I stare at the lid of the trash can twice a week, and that drills it in my head, so that is a great idea. I did want to ask, and I mentioned this to Mr. Eads, but I wanted to ask you as well, if there's any thought about folks, they're going to do some yard work in 2 days, should they call today, plan ahead type thing, or should they wait until they've done the work?
I will take calls at any time. If they have an idea that they're getting ready to do that, we can enter it into the system, and then we can put the pickup date and adjust that accordingly, have that sliding.
Okay.
So yes, communication is good.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you for coming here tonight. I do think we offer a lot of services here in the city, and I think we talk about trash pickup a lot, usually at budget time, and we're usually more talking about the trash rate, and maybe we don't talk as much about the service because everyone has the green can, and that's a given, and some people have grass clippings, and a lot of people have leaves in the fall, but the bulk pickup, like if you're putting out something that doesn't fit in the can, a dishwasher, a chair or something, and I think that's great that we provide that service because there's not a lot of communities that do that. So I think this will be helpful if the goal is efficiency, especially with like the bulk pickup, because like the city manager said, with over 200 miles of roads in the city, that's a lot to be out searching for items constantly. So this will be great. And I will say, a side note, I've called a lot to ask about branches. How many do they need to be a certain size or certain different piles? And I've spoken with a lady, I believe her name is Charlotte, and she's very kind. She's very kind. I really appreciate. She's always been very helpful. So she's a big asset over there.
Sadly, she's retiring in December, so we'll have to find someone to replace those big
Okay.
shoes. She does an excellent job for us.
Yeah.
So, and I just want to add one little thing if I can. Sure. This has definitely been a huge help because of Randy and Tamara, and then just the interdepartmental help that we've been able to pull together and collaborate on this to make a great product. It's been really nice. So I'm thankful to IT, GIS, and the team in the solid waste department as well for pulling this together and really trying to think out of the box. How do we get to that end goal here? So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Osher, for presenting. I do have one question.
Sure.
I know you mentioned one of the driving forces for doing this is to be more efficient now that we are taking all of our stuff to Blumpville, right? Have you kind of guesstimated at what the cost will be or what the cost savings will be for doing it this way as opposed to just driving around haphazardly?
We don't have any hard data on that because we haven't utilized this form yet. So we will be able to have a tremendous amount of data because it's being entered into GIS once we implement it. And I am confident that we will see cost savings on this.
I'm excited for it.
All right, thank you very much. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Good evening.
Yep. All right, item number 2, invitation to bid asphalt, concrete, in-place, and cold planing services, PW-26-005. Staff report from Tamara.
Thank you, Mayor Nave, members of council. This item is the invitation to bid asphalt, concrete in place, and cold planing services, PW-26-005. The invitation to bid for asphalt, concrete in place, and cold planing services was issued on June 9th, 2025, with sealed bids due not later than 2:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on June 26, 2025. The invitation to bid was advertised on the city's website and Virginia's electronic procurement website, EVA. One sealed bid was received, and the bid was evaluated based on the criteria set forth in the invitation to bid. And staff recommends that council award the bid to W&L Construction and Paving Incorporated for asphalt, concrete in place, and cold planing services. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Looking for a council motion.
I move for approval of the contract to W&L Construction as presented.
Second.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. First, I'll just say to Tamara and your team, thank you for the time it goes to put in these proposals together and requests for bids. And I'm thankful that we had a bid come in for this. And it's also somebody that we've had, I know in the past, that has done a good job. So that's important to us as well. So thank you for the time that you've put into this.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, with no further discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Farnum,
Yes.
Holmes,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Pollard,
Yes.
Nave.
Yes. Next item, fire truck purchase. Staff report, Tamara.
Thank you. Mayor Nave and members of council, this agenda item is a fire truck purchase. The vehicle to be purchased is a 2025 Pierce Saber pumper truck. The truck will be purchased through a Sourcewell cooperative contract. The purchase price for the truck is $916,095. The city had purchased a 2012 pumper truck through a lease purchase agreement in 2015. And that lease was paid in full in June of 2025. The 2012 truck will remain in the fleet. A 2008 pumper truck will be retired from the fleet. So this truck will basically replace that truck. The 2025 truck will be purchased through a lease purchase agreement with payments to begin in fiscal year 2027. And city staff will work to procure the most favorable lease terms for the city once we have approval to purchase the truck. So staff recommends that council authorize the city manager to proceed with the purchase of the 2025 Pierce Saber pumper truck. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Looking for a motion and second.
I move for approval of the fire truck purchase as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and second. I'll just say, I think the way I understand it, this lease purchase for this truck, we just paid off one, so we're not looking at really an additional big amount of funds that we didn't already have included in our budget and expecting to already pay, correct? And I think that's important. We're not adding any additional payments, maybe a little bit variance in the payment itself, but not a big difference. And it's important that we keep our equipment up to date. And so I know the fire chief is on top of that, and we appreciate the work that you do on keeping an eye on this and looking for these opportunities to purchase new trucks and get the better deals on them and the best deals that you can get. So thank you also for the time that you've put into this. Any other comments or questions? All right. With no further discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Farnum,
Yes.
Holmes,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Pollard,
Yes.
Nave.
Yes. Next item, supplemental appropriation, $251,487. Staff report from Tamara.
Thank you again, Mayor Nave and Council. This item is a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $251,487 to appropriate funds for the bonus payment approved by council at the June 24th, 2025 council meeting. General fund appropriations total $248,243 and include beginning balance beginning fund balance of $218,704. Those are monies rolled over from fiscal year 25 to allow for the budget supplemental appropriation. State funding for the sheriff's office, $7,438. Commonwealth attorney, state funding of $9,602. State treasurer funding of $2,878. State clerk of the circuit court funding of $5,610. And state commissioner of revenue funding in the amount of $4,011. Then the expenditures include salaries and FICA to cover the bonus payment. And I'm not going to read all of those accounts, but it is salary and FICA accounts to cover the payroll of the bonus payment. Transit fund appropriations of $3,244. So staff does recommend that council approve the supplemental appropriation as listed.
All right, thank you. Looking for council motion and second.
I move for approval of the supplemental appropriation of $251,487.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and second. Any discussion? All right, with no discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Farnum.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Nave.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is parking ordinance update discussion. We do have one person signed up for public comment. When I call your name for public comment, if you will come forward, state your name and address, you will have 3 minutes, and there's a timer there to help you with that. And you will get a warning light, a yellow light, and then the red light means your time is up. So at this time, I'll call up Richard Pennell.
Hello, my name is Richard Pennell. Address is 513 Garden Lane, Bristol, Virginia. And I saw this on the agenda, and I just wanted to take a brief moment to say thank you to the city. Over the last couple of years, I'm with the Housing Authority, Beyond Housing, and over the last couple of years, we've had issues with parking and on projects that we've done. And every time we've had to deal with Jay and the city, it's always been a positive experience, been very helpful, been very good to work with and encouraging. And I just want to say thank you. This will help reduce a little bit of the paperwork. As you can imagine, dealing with federal, state, and all kinds of paperwork is horrendous, and any little step is always helpful. So from a partner agency, from Bristol Housing, or Beyond Housing, we'd like to say thank you for considering this adjustment. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. We appreciate your comments. Okay, I'll now turn it over to Jay Dietrich for staff report.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Mayor, members of council. So tonight, we have some initial updates for discussion in front of council to our off-street parking regulations. And I will say the majority of this ordinance was probably written, I think was updated, created in 1966, updated in 1996. So probably one of the older ordinances we have. It definitely needs some updates to better reflect some of the businesses we have now, some of the uses, some of the changes in habits. So I do have, and it's difficult to read. I will have a page at the end that kind of gives the differences. But so in your packet, I've got the existing off-street parking regulations, which is only 2 pages, so it's not a very long document. One of the things that we do when we look at making an update to an ordinance, we look at other localities in the Commonwealth. And when we looked at that, we saw a large variety of everything from 1 page to no minimums at all to 10 pages, things. So in our purpose here is to make it simpler and to make it easier for people to get their parking approved or to get a variance for their parking. So we've kind of gone with that simpler version. We don't want a 10 or 12-page document as far as that goes. So what I just kind of want to do is just run through some of the changes just in policy and procedure that we might want to see before we go into some of the changes in the actual parking requirements. First of all, the current code specifies that the building official administer and enforce this article. Well, when we sent this out to members of staff, the Virginia Building Code does not require parking of any kind. So it only tells you what you have to do if there's parking. They'll make sure there's enough ADA spaces, that everything's in the proper configuration. So it makes sense to move that over to the zoning administrator as far as enforcement goes. The building official will review any site plan that has parking to make sure there are the required ADA spaces. But having it as a zoning administrator seems to make more sense as far as this goes, since it is in that zoning ordinance. One of the other, probably the biggest change to the procedures are, as you know right now, for a variance from the parking ordinance to ask for a reduction in spaces, it has to come before you guys at City Council to grant that. What we're proposing is that this goes on a staff level approval. So that would come to the zoning administrator for approval of variances. And we've kind of specified what you have to submit to us in order to even be considered for that variance. And I'll go through those real quick. That an applicant demonstrates through a material need or data-driven evidence that the parking is in need of, the parking needs to be varied. So it's not just, oh, we'd like to do it. We need to see some evidence and some actual data that says this is why we want this variance. And I know Housing Authority has been very good about providing that evidence when they've come for parking variances. So if the parking is required, it meets the Virginia State Building Code, which is the ADA spaces and just location of spaces. The granting of such a variance does not construe a detriment to nearby properties. So we're not going to allow somebody to have one space for a large business and everybody's going to go park in their neighbor's parking lot. Those are the kind of things we want to look at. And the applicant adheres to any conditions that the zoning administrator may require when the zoning administrator waives or modifies the required off-street parking spaces. So we can put conditions on that variance. So those are really the big changes in the ordinance, besides the number of spaces. It brings it back to a staff level. It makes things go a little quicker. It's a little streamlined. We develop an application and a procedure as far as that goes. As far as your parking differences, and again, I apologize, this is small, but I just want to run through a few of these with you, some of the things that we're proposing as far as reduction in parking. And then, I'd just like to open it up for discussion. Are we missing any? Should we add more uses? Are we missing uses? Do we think we've under-parked some of these or over-parked still some of these? So residential, we would go from 2 required spaces to 1. No change for hotels and motels. Medical or a vet clinic or office, currently we require 5 spaces per doctor. Our new proposal is 2 spaces per doctor, no change in the non-doctor employee. I'm just going to go through the ones that we've proposed changes on. I think that'll make things easier. For elementary and middle schools, currently it's 2 spaces per classroom at administrative office, and we would go to 1 space per classroom at administrative office. Banks would go from 1 space per 200 square feet to 1 space per 500 square feet. We feel like with so many people just online bank almost exclusively anymore that, foot traffic to some actual going to the banks has probably been reduced by that amount. We do not have anything currently for a daycare facility. We probably look at it more like a school if somebody were to open a daycare, but we do have one. It'd be 0.5 spaces average per employee at the largest shift and 1 space for a guest. We have, right now, medical office and office, general office are all included together. So we've got a new, just for office, that would be non-medical, 0.5 spaces per employee at the largest shift. A performance hall, so basically we have to average 0.25 spaces per seat. And just to, I probably should have brought this up before. This would in no way affect the B2 district, the downtown district, which right now requires no parking. We're just going to leave that alone. The downtown is a unique district. Most of those businesses don't have on-street parking, don't have anywhere for on-street parking. So we don't make any proposed changes to the central business district area. So a self-storage facility, this is not currently in the ordinance. We would ask for 1 per employee at the largest shift and then 2 customer spaces. As you know, most people will park at their unit when they go do that. So that kind of takes care of that. So for retail stores that are not otherwise listed, currently we have 1 space per 200 square feet of sales floor for the first 5,000 square feet, and then 1 additional space per 500 square feet after that. And we would reduce that and permit 1 space per 400 square feet of sales floor for the first 5,000 and 1 per additional 1,000 after that. So kind of cutting that required use in half. Wholesale retail furniture, hardware, appliance, building materials store. Currently it's 1 space per 500 square feet of sales floor and 1 per 2 employees. We're reducing that 1 space per 1,000 square foot of sales floor and 1 per employee. Vehicle service, wash, or repair station, we require 3 spaces per service bay, and we would reduce that to 2 spaces per service bay, and then no change for manufacturing. So one of the things that we look at, you know, when it comes to parking is it's expensive, you know, to pave and to build parking. So sometimes you might have somebody not be able to make that work. You know, from an economic development standpoint, reducing parking a little bit can help in that respect. It also can help as far as environmental, not having as much impervious material out there that they might have to do some stormwater quality and quantity for engineering, and now maybe they won't have to, or maybe they have to do less. So it can help minimize some of these large seas of asphalt that we see where businesses have had to design their parking for Black Friday, you know, and they never get to that amount again. And it also gives the business a little bit more flexibility to add the amount of parking that they do believe they need. A business is not going to succeed if it doesn't have enough parking. And most business owners, I think, know that. So I don't think they're going to come in and say, we want 1 space for a 10,000 square foot retail store. But it just gives them the ability to come to staff and to work with them if they cannot meet what is in the parking regulation, as opposed to having to come to council every single time. And as you know, we've had 3 or 4 of those, I believe, come in over the last few years. I know Beyond Housing has had a few. We've had a hotel. We've had Crossroads has come in a couple of times. So this would, like I said, it helps streamline things and I think just make the process faster and a lot more efficient. So I can, so the hope is here is to get some feedback from council, not only tonight, but in the future, where we could possibly bring this back to the Planning Commission, who we have been working with on this, at least by the August meeting, and start that process. We have to go through the public hearing and the first and second reading, just as we do any other ordinances. So I want to bring this here first, and it's not basic, you know, but we've worked a little while on this, so, you know, I think we're at this point now, we're just wanting to get some input from council.
All right, thank you so much. Well, first, thank you for working on this. You, I know, have spent a lot of time on this and just looking through, looking down at the parking spaces for required parking spaces. I think I just have a few questions on how we can either adjust these or to hear the rationale with them. On the one per resident or unit for residential, to me, that sounds like not enough, because a lot of families may have 2 cars. So does it still entertain the idea or promote that you can have more? Like, what's going to happen with any overflow parking in that situation?
Right. So probably for things such as single-family homes, townhouses, duplexes, you're not going to see a lot of change. Driveways are considered the parking spaces. Garages are considered, if they have a 2-car garage or a 1-car garage, plus a driveway that could fit 3 or 4 cars, that counts. You don't have to do that.
Gotcha.
You might see a bit of an impact, say if it was for an apartment building, a multifamily, and maybe, we had also discussed a little bit about maybe doing something different with single family versus a multifamily. But, we kind of settled here, and again, that's why we're here to talk about that.
Yeah.
But for most of what's been developed in the city, I would say over the last 15 years, the ones required space, they've been made up for with driveways and garages. So
That makes sense. Yep. Okay. I know there's several down through here that I kind of marked that I can share with you. And I was also looking at like the restaurants, 1 per 4 seats, because a lot of times you may have 1 person or 2 people, and that's another one I had a question on. And then I'll just add, see if I marked another one. And then I'll just add, I like the idea of giving you all as staff the authority to handle this and go through this process. We trust the work that you do and appreciate that, because I think a lot of times it holds up processes when you're trying to get on the council agenda to bring it before council, and it just stretches things out so long. So I like that idea of allowing you this authority to move forward with it.
thank you.
And I will say, to the rest of the council, as the member on the planning commission has been looking at this too and discussing it with Jay, and the part that you brought up, Madam Mayor, about residential is one of the things that I've thought about. Well, for instance, the next item about the rezoning, if that owner was, say he was going to build 500 apartments, this reads now that he's got to have 1,000 parking spaces. So I don't know what that cost is. If it, like Jay mentioned, maybe hopefully trying to look at the economic development side, if that will help. But also, yeah, trying to figure out, is going from 2 to 1, is it enough? And so maybe still that's broken up between houses versus like complexes, and maybe complexes would be a different category in a way.
Right. You could maybe look at a particular density level. You might trigger a higher amount of parking versus just, like I said, single family or duplex and things like that.
I think there was a discussion recently about, at Exit 5, development with, and just the cost of sidewalks, curb and guttering, and then the parking lot itself. It's very expensive, not only if you're building a building, but if you're also building pavement as well as a parking lot for however many hundreds of spots. So hopefully we can tweak it and have more discussion and figure out what's best.
Did you say that you had looked at other localities to see what they had done concerning spaces?
Yeah, that's typically one of the first things that we do, of course, when we look to make updates to ordinances, especially something this large, and then try to tailor it to Bristol a little bit better. There's no use to, or no need to reinvent the wheel here, so to speak, here, but we can't just take somebody else's and just say, okay, Fairfax works for Bristol or Roanoke works for Bristol. But yeah, that's one of the things that we looked at originally. That and bringing in staff members as far as that goes and getting their comments on it.
Have other localities made similar shifts in their ordinances? Let's say Radford, it would be a fairly similar comparison.
Yeah, some of them just recently have made some updates, and as I mentioned, there are a few localities, I can't think of specifically which ones, who are basically eliminating minimums at all, for everybody. I don't think personally and from a land use standpoint and development that that's a good idea necessarily, because then you just shift it to on the street, or you shift it to another parking lot, across the street, and you have people parking at your business that's going into another one. But just kind of simplifying it, bringing it more modern into what we have. And there are still some land uses that we can add, because there are land uses now, obviously, that there weren't in 1966 and 1996. And I think adding a few of those in is one of the things we've done, and we're looking for more of those as well.
One thing that I noticed that you were talking about that helps this is simply that, well, these are minimums.
Right.
The developer needs, first and foremost, to know their audience. Most homes are going to have most homes have more than 2 parking spaces, because that's what their audience is looking for. That's what their customer is looking for. I know a doctor that I often use, and he's a sole practice. According to this updated code, he'd only need 1 other parking space other than the one that he's in. But if that suits him, great. If he knows that his practice normally has his current patient and the one that's coming after, then he knows he needs an extra space regardless of what code says.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr. Diedrich, for your work on this, and the Planning Commission as well. I think this is a great idea, kind of, as the Mayor said, giving you that authority to kind of process these. As much as we like seeing Mr. Pinnell every other meeting, it's good to give him a break from us. But I think this is a good fit. I would be interested in possibly seeing the higher density parking kind of pulled out, not to trip you up, but just because there are different needs there, and just maybe taking a look at that. I think that wouldn't be a bad thing.
Right. And then they would still have the opportunity to come to staff for a variance if, such as they have in the past because of their clientele not having cars typically, they could do that same type of thing. And we just come up with some type of approval as far as that goes and go from there.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, next item on the agenda is E, ordinances, second reading. Second ordinance reading for a zoning map amendment, ZMA 02-2025, tax map partials 30-13-1 and 463-4-1. No one has signed up for a public comment, and I'll turn it back over to you, Jay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. We received an application from Shim Properties, LLC, for a zoning map amendment for property that they own located at tax map parcels 30-13-1, 463-4-1. The property is approximately 50 acres and is currently zoned R3C, with moderate density residential with conditions. The request is to rezone the property to FRD, Flexible Redevelopment District, which allows for some light commercial, some light manufacturing, and for residential. The Planning Commission recommended this for a joint public hearing with the City Council at their May 19th meeting. The joint public hearing with Planning Commission was held on June 10th. At the June 16th, 2025 meeting, the Planning Commission voted to recommend the request for approval to the City Council by a vote of 6-0. And the City Council approved the request on first ordinance reading at the June 24th, 2025 meeting. Staff recommends approval on second ordinance reading, either in full or by caption only. I did, however, want to mention real quick, Vice Mayor Holmes, you did have a question last time about the comment on the hydrant, the water flow map of BVU. The fire department has gone out since then and done an actual field pressure test, and that result is in your packet. It is lower when you do the field test than what the map showed, but according to the fire marshal, this type of zoning is still possible with this data. So.
All right, thank you. Okay, looking for a motion and second for the second reading of the ordinance, full or by caption only.
I move for second reading of the ordinance by caption only.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any council discussion?
Well, I'll say I'm very excited for this possible development. You know, we are taking, or this developer is taking a big empty spot of land that's in a neighborhood that needs new development, and trying to interject some life in there. So I'm very excited for what type of housing and, maybe mixed-use development we'll see there. I think it'll really go a long way to revitalize and bring this part of Kingtown back to life. So I'm very excited for this.
We've talked in some other situations where a developer may not necessarily have presented concrete plans to us, but the developer clearly has enough interest that he's paid rather hefty fees in order to get this to this point. The application fee is only a small part of it, but he's paid for certified mailings to all of the neighbors, and sometimes that gets rather pricey. So clearly he has an interest, whether or not he's firmed it up enough to make that presentation to us.
Yeah, I just want to echo everyone else's comments. This is a large tract of land. It's about 50 acres. It's probably the largest undeveloped tract in the city still. So to the developer, the current owner of the property, a word of thanks and appreciation if he's ready and willing and able to spend his time and his money investing in Bristol, Virginia. And just to point out, this property is zoned residential now, so even without doing this, he could go ahead and build some type of residential, but I think changing it to this flex use is a good fit for the property where it's such a large tract. So if he wanted to build a mixture of some other things in there, like a mixed use, that could be easily done. And I think that was the purpose when the flex use zoning district was created, for certain properties that maybe didn't fit in this or that, or could be used for a couple of things. So yeah, we appreciate his investment in the city of Bristol if he's going to develop something at this tract. I don't know the developer or the owner myself, but hopefully he can take this property and turn it into something really nice, and then this rezoning ultimately helps him get to that point.
I would just like to echo what everybody else has said. This is exciting. It's great to see somebody willing to invest in the city, invest in property, and do something with it. I do want to thank Mr. Dietrich, Chief Armstrong, for your work in getting some answers on the water flow for the hydrants. It's disheartening that we see another spot on the map that's not accurate. It sounds like there's progress being made on the map itself, so I appreciate that, Chief, and BVU as well. It'll be good to have that updated and corrected. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Now I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Farnum,
Yes.
Holmes,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Pollard,
Yes.
Nate,
Yes. Reading of ordinance by caption only.
Ordinance number 25-6, an ordinance by the City Council of Bristol, Virginia, approving the request to amend the city zoning map from moderate density residential with conditions R-3C to flexible redevelopment district FRD for tax map parcels 463-4-1 and 30-13-1.
All right, I'm looking for a motion and second for the passage of the ordinance.
I move for final passage of the ordinance as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Farnum,
Yes.
Holmes,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Pollard,
Yes.
Nave.
Yes. All right, moving into the next item, matters to be presented by members of the public, non-agenda items. And we have several signed up for public comment. As I call your name, just a reminder to come up and state your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes. You will have a green light, a yellow light, and then a red light means your time is up. First person on the list is Cindy Green.
Good evening. I'm here to, Cindy Green, 1075 Clark Street, Bristol, Virginia. I'm here to talk about the VI campus. I want to first say congratulations on the Senate bill passing of 1476, a legislature that will be able to be, the property will be able to pass to the city after you go through the court process. The VI campus consists of 140 parcels, 34 plus acres, and 25 buildings. As a resident of Bristol, Virginia, I feel that it's imperative that a public process be engaged to assure there is transparency and public support of the site plans, not just an opportunity to hear what the council has already decided in closed sessions. This property has been allowed to decay for over a decade, and the people have a right to have their voices heard in a fair forum. As a lender that utilizes historic tax credits, I feel that it's imperative that the 2 remaining buildings that carry National Historic Registry status be preserved, as their credits in Virginia can reach up to 45% of their adaptive reuse. Hodges Hall and the gymnasium must be protected. The property may also qualify for new market tax credits, which my current employer has allocations of those, and they're my understanding that the big bill has made new markets a permanent part of legislature, so there will be ample opportunity to take advantage of that. As the rest of the buildings may qualify for mid-century historic tax credits, according to architectural historian Michael Paulus at the Virginia Department of Historic Resources, this is money on the table that any developer is going to need to help offset the huge amount of site testing, remediation, infrastructure upgrades necessary to comply with the needs and code. Beyond Housing's Choice Neighborhood Grant encompasses the campus, and it includes in it a 2-year planning work that has just begun. This is a great opportunity to collaborate and create efficiencies. Beyond Housing has teams already working on creating a rebirth of the community that the VI campus site sits right in the middle of. The citizens of this community have a right to have a say in what happens to their campus and their community. I will conclude with asking each of the city council members, Madam Mayor and Mr. Eads, not to make behind closed door deals on this property. The community deserves better, and we're watching. Thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts. And I would like to say that there's a community member that I have a lot of respect for that says, don't do about me without me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next person on the list is Rachel Owens.
Thank you all for having me. My name is Rachel Owens, and I'm here for New Day Recovery. We are located at 2195 Euclid Avenue. We're a part of Southwest Virginia Community Health Systems. And I realize September is still a little ways away, but we are celebrating Recovery Awareness Month. And in each week in the month of September, we will be doing activities for our patients, their families, and the community. We'll have a panel of people sharing their recovery story, Narcan training. We will have a cookout for our patients and their family. We will also be doing a recovery walk here in Cumberland Park on September 29th, partnering with Highlands Community Service, Virginia Health Department, and members of Al-Anon. And everybody in the community is welcome to come out. It'll be from 12 to 2 on September 29th. And that is all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, next person on the list is Lisa Jenkins.
Hi there. I'm
Hello.
Lisa Jenkins, 2156 Randolph Street in Bristol, Virginia. I've lived here for only about 2.5 years, but I graduated from King College, went away, lived in Kingsport for about 30 years. And during that time there, I was actively involved in volunteer role in helping with neighborhood revitalization. So I'm very interested in what's happening with the neighborhood around Virginia Intermont campus. What happens on Piedmont Street and Moore Street impacts me on Randolph Street. I appreciate all the work that you guys do. Y'all dedicate your time as volunteers to make sure we're making good decisions for our community. I'm here to offer help as a citizen volunteer with my previous experience and expertise. I see tremendous opportunity in the neighborhood there, not just for Bristol, Virginia, but for our entire region. If we think about, as Cindy just explained, the development opportunities to meet our housing needs, to meet our economic development needs, to increase our sales tax through some of the businesses that could be there, and the arts opportunities to take advantage of the educational experiences that are available for people, could be there on campus or the nearby neighborhoods. I will tell you that I worked in the Riverview neighborhood in the 90s because a little girl was playing on the sidewalk by our house, and she was shot in the head with a drug deal that went bad. And that caused the neighborhood to come together. Crises sometimes do. I see an opportunity for that here. Bristol, Virginia cannot do this by itself. Y'all do a tremendous job, and you face tremendous pressure to stay within the budgets of what our people can do. It is vital that we reach out and involve not just the people in the neighborhood, but the people from Bristol, Virginia, Bristol, Tennessee, the community resources that our organizations have and our partners have. I am very proud to see the All America City logo here, because I was involved in that too. We should not turn our backs and close our eyes to the opportunities to collaborate with others. And the worst thing we could do is make decisions behind closed doors and not involve the resources that are standing there ready to help. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, moving into the next item, which is the closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A, discussion or consideration of the accusation of real property for the public purpose or for the disposition of publicly held real property, where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiation strategy of the public body. White site. Consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation, which such consultation or briefing in open meetings would adversely affect the negotiation or litigating posture of the public body, U.S. Magis. Consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding a specific legal matter requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel. White site. So we're looking for a motion and second.
I move that we enter into closed session for the reasons stated.
Second.
All right, clerk, please call the roll.
Farnum.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Nave.
Yes. call vote, council members certify that only business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements as specified in the motion to convene an executive session were discussed. Clerk, please call the roll.
Farnum.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Nate.
Yes. Next item is the consent agenda, and there are 4 items on it. Consider a street closure request for the annual Hot Bristol Night Car Show. Consider a street closure request for the annual Bristol Rhythm and Roots Reunion Festival. Approval of 2 reappointments for the IDA. Approval of minutes from the June 24, 2025 City Council meeting. Looking for a motion and second.
I move for approval of the consent agenda in full.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Farnum.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Nate.
Yes. And looking for a motion and second for adjournment.
I move that we now adjourn.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Farnum.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Nate.
Yes. And we are adjourned.
Start voting no one.